On Saturday, less than 48 hours ago, a man drove a vehicle into a crowd of partygoers at Berlin's annual Pride event. A 65-year-old woman from Poland was killed in the attack and 29 others injured. The alleged attacker is now dead, shot by police as he charged at them with a knife when a SWAT team tried to arrest him. The investigations continue and questions are being raised. I'll be talking to our political correspondent to find out what, if anything, needs to change in Germany's system to prevent such attacks from happening. German Chancellor Friedrich Merz gave a press conference earlier and he addressed the question that everybody seems to be asking right now.
Ich will es aber auch deutlich sagen für eine Antwort auf die Frage, welche politischen Konsequenzen.
I also want to state clearly that it is too early to answer the question of what political consequences should be drawn from this brutal attack.
Bekundungen bleiben. Wir werden mit Besonnenheit, aber auch mit Entschlossenheit.
However, it is also clear that this cannot stop at mere expressions of concern. We must respond with both composure and determination. And above all, we must answer how it was possible for a man classified in this way here in Berlin to go unhindered to the vicinity of the Christopher Street Day event on Saturday evening and carry out this attack.
Und dort diesen Anschlag verüben konnte.
And we can now talk to our political correspondent, Giulia Saudelli, who also listened to that press conference. Giulia, Merz clearly under pressure on many fronts. The right-wing populist AfD is leading and consistently gaining in the polls, mainly with anti-migration rhetoric, and now this attack. Merz started there by saying that it was too early for political consequences. Do you think that's a view that most of his voters would share?
Well, I'm sure that many voters out there, but also many other politicians would like to see consequences drawn as soon as possible. But it is also true that a lot of questions do remain open before this drawing of consequences can actually take place. So many questions are open and investigators are at work trying to find answers to those. For example, did the perpetrator or the suspected perpetrator act alone? Was he part of a network? What kind of contacts did he have? Or how was he able to get so close to the Pride parade despite him really being under strict control, and he was also well known to the authorities. These are all questions that will then determine what kind of action needs to be taken, and obviously these answers are important before decisions can be made on what is actually needed to try to prevent this from happening again. And as we've heard, Merz himself has said this shouldn't just be a show of solidarity and concern. We do have to draw these measures, but I'm afraid it will take some time.
Now let's recap and focus on the suspect Abdul B, who we're naming as such following the German press code here. He had tried to join Islamic State, was convicted in Lebanon in 2025 for incitement to a religious and sectarian conflict. In May this year, he was sentenced in Germany to 1 year and 10 months in prison for, quote, preparing a serious act of violence endangering the state. And the decision was deferred for 6 months, and he was just placed under the supervision of a parole officer and not sent to jail. The question that we hear again and again there is, why did Germany let him walk free? Did Merz offer an explanation for that?
He did not really. He said that obviously there is a need to look into what happened there and whether then consequences need to be drawn from this. But he himself showed he was perplexed about the fact that this person, as I said, who'd been under observation, he was known to the authorities, he was able to act pretty much undisturbed and get so close to an event that had such a strong police presence, and that he was able to carry out this attack and to be on the run for almost 24 hours. And he also said he was wondering how Merz made this example, saying he can find his iPad and know where it is from anywhere in the world. How can Germany's security services not known what this man was doing, what this suspect was preparing? So a lot of open questions there, and certainly I imagine the Chancellor would like to know those answers soon, because a lot depends on that.
Merz also referred to the fact that most policing and the judiciary are under control of Germany's 16 Länder, that's the federal states. Is federalism getting in the way here, do you think?
Well, federalism can be seen and is seen by many as a system with many advantages. It provides, it avoids the centralization of power, and it allows states and local authorities to apply laws that fit better to their citizens. But it also does cause some issues. It does make things more complicated. It calls for more communication, and that sometimes does get into in the way of efficiency. We've seen that in many aspects in German society. We saw that during the coronavirus pandemic, where a lot of the health decisions had to be coordinated between all of Germany's states. We see that when it comes to asylum policy and the management of asylum seekers, those are managed by the local authorities, but also when it comes to expelling people who don't have the right to stay in Germany, this has caused a lot of delays and has caused a lot of headaches also for the central government. So certainly when we see that different authorities are in charge and different authorities decide to act differently when it comes to surveillance, but also to policing, intelligence sharing, this certainly can cause some complications.
Now, Merz was also asked about what he thought about stripping proven Islamists of their German citizenship. Let's listen into how he replied.
Nach unserer Verfassung können wir
Under our constitution, German citizenship cannot be revoked from German citizens. It is unconstitutional to render a German citizen stateless. In this specific case, revoking German citizenship would not have achieved the desired outcome anyway, because to the best of our knowledge, this man held only German citizenship.
Now, Giulia, how likely do you think it is that a measure like that, going to the very heart of Germany's constitution, would even be considered?
Well, this is a controversial issue, and some politicians have been calling for similar measures for years. For example, Markus Söder, he is the head of Merz's sister party in Bavaria, the CSU. He has been calling for this for a few years now. But the issue is controversial. For example, it would only apply to people with dual citizenship, because if German citizens who only have a German passport can't be left stateless, this can only apply to people who have another passport. That calls into questions a lot of issues that have to do with fairness. There's also the issue of which criteria would have to be applied and met in order for citizenship to be revoked, and this obviously is also a controversial issue. So this is a debate, and that has started in the past and never really went anywhere, and it is very controversial. Now, we heard Merz saying that he thinks the debate can be carried out, but that it requires a lot of careful considerations because the topic is quite touchy.
Now, we've discussed the role of the 16 states and 16 different judiciaries, if you will. But Merz said that he also will instruct his interior minister to check what the federal government can do to help. What could that be?
Well, we've heard terrorism experts, but also politicians calling for a toughening of Germany's criminal law. Some say that it is mild compared to other European countries, for example, like France or the UK. And this is something that can be decided at the federal level. Germany's criminal law is the same across the country. What changes is then how the judiciary is managed in the different states. So this is something that can certainly be looked at. Also, in terms of intelligence and surveillance, there are some measures there that can make it easier to access information or centralize surveillance more. And then definitely also when it comes down to looking at naturalizations or migration policy, this is also an issue that, even though when it comes to asylum is applied and enforced locally at the state level, the laws are generally decided at the federal level. So these are all issues that can be looked at the federal level. We'll have to see if and what this government decides to do.
Now, did you get the feeling there that Merz was a man under extreme pressure?
I would say so, yes. It's not an easy moment for the Chancellor right now, heading into what is meant to be the summer break, but we'll see if a break actually happens. But he's under pressure on many fronts. On the one hand, pressure coming from the fact that his government is extremely unpopular and that the far-right AfD party is leading in the polls nationally, and especially in two states in the former east of Germany, where state elections are taking place in September, where the far-right AfD could come into power for the first time at the state level. All of this compounded by the promise by Chancellor Merz to deliver urgently needed reforms for the country, and these reforms actually lagging, a lot of delays happening there on the timeline, and also an issue that coming out after this attack is that the government is coming and is going to come under pressure on how it's handling this tragedy and how it's going to respond to it. And we're likely to see the far-right AfD party also try to capitalize on this debate, because migration is one of their stalwart topics in their campaign. So certainly, yes, a lot of pressure being put on Chancellor Merz right now.
Our political correspondent, Giulia Saudelli there. Thank you very much for that analysis, Giulia.
My pleasure.
And that's it from me and the news team. Let us know what you think. Does the German government need to change its security laws following the Berlin Pride attack? Leave a note in the comments. Thanks for watching.